And after the 3.5 days, a ruach of life, spirit of life from Elohim, entered into them. And they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell on those who saw them. And they heard a voice, a loud voice from the Shemayim, the heavens, saying to them, "Come up here." And in that hour there came to be a great earthquake, and 1/10 of the city fell. And in the earthquake 7,000 men were killed. And the rest became afraid and gave esteem to the Elohim of the heaven. The second woe is past, and see, the third woe is coming speedily. And the 7th messenger sounded, and there came to be loud voices in the heavens saying, "The reign of the world has become the reign of the Master and the Messiah, and he shall rule and reign forever and ever." So here we see clearly that at the sounding of the 7th trumpet, that this is all correlated to the idea of the resurrection of the two witnesses. The two witnesses, they hear a shout, they hear a teruah, then they hear the trumpet blast, and they're called up into the heavens. But here we see clearly, not only this, but this is the time of separation, because the other people of the earth had already taken a stand against Yahuwah. And they had already begun to wage war against Yahuwah, therefore they rejoiced over the death of the two witnesses. But the two witnesses shall rise, and at the 7th trumpet blast, the mystery of Elohim shall be ended, as it says, "And the reign of this world has become the reign of the Master and his Messiah, and he shall rule and reign forever." Revelation 16:13. "And I saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits, as frogs, for they are spirits of demons, doing signs which go out to the sovereigns of the entire world, to gather them to battle for the great day of Yahuwah the Almighty. See, I am coming as a thief. Blessed is he who is staying awake and guarding his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame." And they gathered them together to the place called in Hebrew Har Megiddo. That place, Har Megiddo, is called Armageddon. People have abstract thoughts about Armageddon. They talk about the great Armageddon that's coming. They link it to the terminology that they've used called apocalypse. The apocalypse means the unveiling, but they use all these things in conjunction to any kind of doomsday event that could take place. They'll call it Armageddon, they'll call it the apocalypse. But both of these terminologies are used specifically by talking to the coming of the Messiah. Har Megiddo, or Armageddon, is where the people will fight. All the nations of the earth will be gathered there by these 3 unclean spirits. People will probably call them angels, or they'll call them aliens, or whatever. Who knows? It doesn't even matter. It's completely irrelevant. But these 3 unclean spirits will mislead the nations to come and fight at Har Megiddo, at Armageddon, at the time of the end. Now, let's go to Revelation 19, verse 11. "And I saw the heaven opened, and there was a white horse, and he who sat on him was called Trustworthy and True. And in righteousness he judges and fights. And his eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, having a name that was written, which no one had perceived or understood except himself." That does not mean he comes in a name that no one knows. It means that he is the only one who truly understands the deepest significance of his name, that no one knew except himself, and having been dressed in a robe dipped in blood. And his name is called the Word of Yahuwah, Debar Yahuwah. That is the manifestation of Yahuwah, the Messiah. The word Debar not only means a word, but also means a manifestation. Debar Yahuwah is his name. "And the armies in the Shemayim, the heavens, dressed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that it should smite the nations. And he shall shepherd them with a rod of iron. And he treads the winepress of the fierceness of the wrath of El Shaddai. And on his robe and on his banner is written, Sovereign of sovereigns and Master of masters. And I saw one messenger standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying, To all the birds that fly in mid-heaven, come and gather together for the supper of the great Elohim. Come and gather together for the great supper of Elohim. Eat the flesh of sovereigns and the flesh of commanders and the flesh of strong ones and the flesh of horses, of those who sit on them, and the flesh of the people, free and slave, both small and great. And I saw the beasts and the sovereigns of the earth and their armies gathered together to fight him who sat on the horse with his army. And the beast was seized, with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, by which he led astray those receiving the mark of the beast and those worshiping his image. The two were thrown alive into the lake of fire, burning with sulfur. But listen to this part. And the rest were killed with the sword which came from the mouth of him who sat on the horse. And all the birds were filled with their flesh. Yahushua the Messiah is coming. When he comes, he's going to announce the reign of Yahuwah. The sounding of the shofar shall take place. Remember that Teruah blast, it's not just to gather the people. It's also to dispatch the armies of the heavens. At Armageddon, at Har Megiddo, Yahushua HaMashiach will come and he will show up. He will fight and he will destroy those who came to war against him. And all the kings and the sovereigns of the earth and the leaders, they will be eaten by the birds. Their flesh, their corpse will be eaten and consumed by the birds. But when Yahushua comes at the time of Yom Teruah, remember the great and terrible day of Yahuwah, according to Zephaniah. It is a Yom of the shofar and a Yom of the Teruah. It is Yom Teruah, the day of trumpets. This prophetic feast is not just a time that announces the sovereign, it's a time that announces that he's coming to war at Har Megiddo. And at this place, at this appointed time, the Teruah blast shall sound. Yahuwah shall raise those who are dead. The resurrection of the righteous shall take place. They will meet the Messiah in the air. They will be with him as he is coming to the earth to rule and reign and to destroy those people who are coming to fight against him. This is the layout of Yom Teruah. This is what is going to happen. There is no pre-tribulational rapture. It does not happen this way. What happens is, Yahushua said, immediately after the tribulation of those days, then he shall send out his messengers to the four corners of the earth. Yeshayahu said it will be at the sound of the great shofar. We know that is the last sound. The book of Revelation tells us there are seven messengers that will sound. And at the time of the seventh messenger, that the two witnesses rose up, those two prophets, they had their resurrection. And this is all laid out in the scriptures so simplistically. And even in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, it tells us clearly at the last trump. We know it's at the seventh trump. Now let's go to the book of Luke chapter 17, in verse 33. Whoever seeks to save his life shall lose it, and whoever loses his life shall preserve it. I say to you, in that night there shall be two in one bed. The one shall be taken, and the other shall be left. Two women shall be grinding together. The one shall be taken, and the other shall be left. Two shall be in the field. The one shall be taken, and the other shall be left. Now the Christians use this verse to explain the pre-tribulational rapture, that they will be taken away before the tribulation or the distress even happens. But listen to what this verse is actually talking about in verse 37. And they answering said to him, Where, Master? And he said to them, Where the body is, there also the vultures and the buzzards shall be gathered together. That word body means corpse. Wherever their corpse is, the buzzards and the vultures shall be gathered together to eat their flesh, because they're coming to battle at Har Megiddo. At this time, half of the population of the earth is going to be drafted to go to war. They're going to be taken to the battle. And when they come, that their dead body will be consumed by the birds of the earth, because the messengers will be calling to the birds to come and to eat the flesh of kings of the earth and all those who've been led astray by those unclean spirits. And they've been led to come to the great and terrible battle that begins, the great and awesome day of Yahuwah, when the trumpets blast, when the shofar sounds, when the Mashiach comes, the word of Yahuwah, who is Yahushua HaMashiach, and he rules and reigns, but he will first crush his enemies and destroy the Babylon and destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and it will never rise up again, and their abominations never be remembered again before Yahuwah as they are destroyed.